Greetings, Splatoon fans, and the other people who clicked on this video out of sheer boredom or curiosity. I am Chaotic Sorceress ZTC, and welcome to my video on becoming a Splatoon fan idol. This video is a compilement of almost everything you'll need if you want to make your own Splatoon fan music and fan idols. This also includes touching on how to draw, so get your pencils ready for that. My reason for making this video is that I've walked around the block of Splatoon fans for a while now, and I've come to a realization. The most insane positive of us are the ones who make full-on Splatoon fan music. Animators also count for this, but I can't teach you animation in one video. Anyways, onwards. Granted, there are not a lot of us fan musicians. My best guess would be maybe 20 or 30. Either that, or a lot of people are hiding in specific search results. We all know Caitlin Coy and their idol group Octoprison. Some have heard of Vocaloider and the idol group Coral Star, but how many of you have heard of Takoyaki's group Trilite? I hope my example has given you reason to keep listening. As I've stated, my goal with this video is to give you everything you need to make a Splatoon fan idol yourself. I want there to be a group of equally deranged, in a good way, people when it comes to the Splatoon fan music scene. So, to go into how this video is structured, first off, we will go over what most of you actually came here for. The Inkling Voice and its cousin, the Inkling Singing Voice. They're ever so slightly different, because one of them demands you add autotune and reverb to it. Then we will go on to a slight overview of music theory and the organization of music, after which we will finish up with the basics of drawing and how to come up with an idea for your fan idols to emulate. Anyways, let's get this started with the required software. What you are going to need for this is a 32-bit download of Audacity, a 32-bit download of GSnap, and a download of RoV, all of which are linked in the description. If you're not a Windows user, you've got a couple options. Mac users should be able to emulate what I'm doing on GarageBand. Emphasis on should. I'm not a Mac user, so I don't know how your wah-wah filter works, but I know you should have everything you need, that being an auto-tune filter, a plugin called Vocal Transformer for Formant, and most definitely an equalizer, as well as the already stated wah-wah effect in the wah-wah pedal. If you can't find them, look them up on the internet. That's why we have the internet. If you're a Linux user, I have no idea how Linux works, but I read somewhere you can run the source code of Audacity through 32 or 64-bit when compiling it. If you can't make it 32-bit, get the plugin Little Altar Boy for $99. It's not cheap, and it's kind of trash compared to RoV, from what I hear, but it'll get the job done, at least for raising the formant. One reply on the RoV page said Altar Boy has troubles with lowering formant specifically, in contrast with RoV. So, there's that. On top of this, if you are a Mac or Linux user, I suggest you go check out Scruffy or Elis videos on the Inkling Voice in the description below for a better understanding of what this looks like on better software. This also goes for people who plan to shift this over to different software as well, since if you have an auto equalizer, you can make this a lot better. Now, without further ado, let's start. First, we shall begin with the normal Inkling voice, which means we'll need something an Inkling would say, like, "Woomy, woomy." Alright, now we click the first bit without your voice, like right here. Go into noise removal and repair, noise reduction, get noise profile. Next, we click all of it and go back to noise reduction, clicking OK this time. This is basically to get rid of all of the background noise so it doesn't futz with our effects we put over it later. Alright. Next, we go down to row V. Setting formant to 90, pitch to 12, making sure it's not robotic, and mix to 100. The preview for this, it kind of broke a long time ago, so don't trust it. As you can tell. And now we get into the parts I took from other videos as inspiration. You're going to want to go down to EQ and filters, click on filter curve EQ, and now we take an equalization from Scruffy's video, which sets it to negate anything roughly under 1000 Hz, brings up audio slightly at 1/4 from 1000 Hz, and 3/4 until 2000 Hz, then bringing it back down to drown off, and then upward in a V shape centered on the line between 4000 and 6100 Hz. Voila. After which, you should notice the sound being muffled. As so. Next, we take inspiration from a YouTuber named Devin SFM, who is also linked in the description with the video I took this from. And we change tempo so we can add a faster wah-wah effect than Audacity allows us to normally. First off, we go to pitch and tempo. Clicking on change tempo, making sure that the small square in the corner saying use high quality stretching slow is selected, and change the beats per minute from 4 to 1. This takes a bit, but it works quite well. After which, we go into distortion and modulation, and then to wah-wah. Putting the settings as follows from top to bottom: LFO frequency to 4, LFO start phase to 220, depth to 100, resonance to 6.6, wah frequency offset to 60, and output gain to -1. Then we go back to tempo and change it again from 4 to 16. This is basically just to set it back and revert to the same length that it was before. So if you have a song, you can just futz with the audio and then shunt it back to the normal length. But that, I'm getting ahead of myself. This one takes a lot longer than the first one, especially when you have a full song set up. But yeah, as I've said, we haven't gotten to that. Next, we're going to take one out of Elist's book and add a compressor. We go into volume and compression and click on compressor. And finally, we set it to as follows: threshold at -30, makeup gain to 5, knee width to 10, ratio to 50, look ahead to 5, attack to 60, and release to 60. You can probably do different compression settings if you feel like it, but this is what worked for me. And bam. There you go. Inkling Voice. Side note before you get into Inkling singing voice, you can definitely change the format up or down or the wah-wah to be longer or shorter in tempo for a second idle. Now we get into the Inkling singing voice, which is similar but different, but only ever so slightly different. First, we need a vocal sound to put into it. For this example, I'm just going to go with this. Choppery-poo. Choppery-poo. Next, we get into the stuff we've already done before. Noise removal, noise reduction, noise profile, select it all, noise removal, noise reduction, okay. Get rid of the stuff so it doesn't mess with our effects. Now, we very importantly do Rho V before G-Snap. Because if we do it after G-Snap, it eats the auto-tune. Which is really weird, but it is a really old plugin, so it makes sense. Kind of. Anyways, we use Rho V at the settings we used it last time. Alright. Then we open G-Snap. And select all of the notes. Setting min frequency to 80 Hz. Max frequency to 800 Hz. Gate to -50 decibels, speed to 2, threshold to 50, amount to 100%, attack to 1 millisecond, and release to 1 millisecond. I can't really add it as a preset because I'm pretty sure it presets as the notes instead. The rest don't matter from what I know. And apply. Alright. Next, we put it through the EQ filter, as always, that we already did. Set tempo from 4 to 1. Using high quality stretching. Takes a bit. Add the wah-wah from the normal Inkling voice. Set the tempo back by doing 4 to 16 with high quality. This one takes a lot longer. You can see now why the longer it goes, the longer it takes to do this. Alright. Then we take another page out of Elif's video and go down to delay and reverb. And click reverb. You can go into the factory presets and select voice tail. For those of you hijacking this into another software, because look at me, making it in Audacity. I know you are. The settings are as follows. Room size at 66%. Pre-delay at 27 milliseconds. Reverberance at 100%. Damping at 8%. Tone low at 0%. Tone high at 51%. Wet gain at -6 decibels. dry gain at 0 decibels, and stereo width at 68%. Alright. And then we do the same compressor from the normal Inkling Voice. Yada yada yada. If you want to, you can put a fade out at the end of it, I guess. So it doesn't just clip. Well, congratulations. You have the ability to make your Splatoon fan characters speak and sing now. Congrats. Greetings! Future Chaotic here. I made it better. So now I'm just going to quickly say the changes. Speed to 2, threshold 600, amount 100. Attack 1, release 1. That does this. So just change it and put that in there instead. So for the G-Snap, just do that. Now onto music theory, and a bit about music organization. To get a good grasp on how we want to go about this, you must first understand notes in 4/4 time. You can skip to the cheating music theory chapter if you already understand 4/4 time. Anyways, shown here are a few notes. The quarter note is 1 note in 4/4 time, or 1 second. This one has no tails. Next is the 8th note, worth half a second, or note in 4/4 time. Each bar, or sequence of notes, in 4/4 time is 4 seconds long, with 4 quarter notes, each as a basic template. The more tails you add to the note, the shorter the note is, hence this 16th note having 2 tails. There's also 32nd notes, but I don't think anyone uses those normally. I guess you can if you want to. These also can be exchanged out for rests, which are places where no notes are played, and they also have a similar varying of types that follow nearly the exact same rules of tails. There's also the quarter notes with holes in them that last 2 seconds, and the circle oval whole notes that last the full 4 seconds of the bar. There's also, on top of that, dots that can be seen after some notes. These basically just push the notes half of their length more. The reason I had to explain this all to you is because if you want to understand music theory, you will have to look through at least one written down piece of music. Maybe more. I'll get to suggestions later, though. Here's a treble clef with a music staff, which has the word face on it. The letters of the word correspond with the notes on the music staff. They are easy to remember due to this joke statement that many people make about them. Now, here is a different combination of notes on the music staff. These are placed within the lines instead of on top of them. They go in order E, G, B, D, F. And the joke for this group is every good boy does fine. If you remember these lines and that the notes go up in the order of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then repeat, as well as this being in the 4th octave, starting at the C in the previously stated face example, you should be able to get a good idea of how notes in music sheets can translate into Audacity, if you feel the need. Also, if you put certain notes together, you create chords. Usually, this is a combination of 3 or 4 notes. This is your indicator that you can skip to cheating music theory now if you want. Now that I've given the full laydown on how to read music, I can explain how to understand music theory, which, if you want a good definition of it, it's just how to know what sounds good. When it comes to songs, they are often split up into patterns. These can be AB, ABA, ABAC, ABC. You get the gist. It's also a good idea to put in an intro part and an outro part, as well as having one tune you have that can really catch the audience's attention. A hook, if you will. Now I can get you into learning the grind. What you're going to want to do is try replicating the first part of a song's tune. I mostly went about replicating the first few notes of Megalovania by Toby Fox when I did it, because I just have a real fascination with the tune. Next, you'll want to look at the full sheet music for a song you like. Since you're looking at this video, I would suggest Calamari Incantation. I'll link to a website called MuseScore, where someone remade the sheet music for the song in the description. This website will allow you to swap between the sheet music and a look at all the notes being played on a piano. You could probably use other MuseScore pieces for learning as well if you wished. This is overall to get a rough feel and allow you to hone in on certain parts of the music while ignoring others in preparation for what comes next. That being dissection. What I mean by that is taking songs you already listen to on the daily and taking them apart. Listen to the drums only, listen to the long chords people put under their main music, pick out the specific instruments. How do they emphasize their lyrics? Remember, music is locked in some ways, but it is also freeform. Or you could just throw that all out the window and change notes up or down by 1, 2, 5, 7, or 12 semitones when changing notes, and remembering to add or subtract something from the tune every 2 loops of your melody, as well as just using the framework of intro, melody music, hook music, melody music, hook music, outro. By the by, if you want to make your vocals louder than the other parts of the music, just use Audacity or whatever program you're using to amplify the music part by -5 or so. Basically, just turn the instruments and such down so you can hear yourself sing. You can also use chords to emphasize your singing by keeping in key with them and having them a tad louder than the other instruments. I usually cheat to get my chords by just using the main track with 2 duplicate tracks raised up or down by 5, 7, or 12 semitones. You can always look the chords up as well if you want them perfect. Also, you can add the vocal tail reverb from the Inkling singing voice to your music as well for better sound. Also, insert my notes on happy versus sad chords here. Future me, do that, now. Cool. Next part. Now that that's over with, we can turn to the next part of the puzzle, the artwork. First of all, when it comes to doing art, it's all about repetition, just drawing things over and over again until it sticks. If you want to understand a part of the body, look at your own and draw it about 25-ish times to get a good framework. Want to get good at hands? Draw your non-dominant hand. Want to get good with eyes? Have a mirror nearby. You can also look online for references too. Now, with that out of the way, I'm going to give you a quick overview of shadows and lighting. Try copying these images down a couple times to get a good handle on them and how they work. Or look for some in your real life to copy down. First, I'll start with a cube, because it is the simplest to understand due to its clean splitting of the shadows on its side. Next, we go to the cylinder, which, when light hits it, has a similar face shading on the top as the cube, but a gradient-like shading on the rounded part of it. After which, we move to the sphere, which is similar to the cylinder's rounded side, but warped circularly around the sphere. Note that the images I have shown are all broken up into the most basic parts of the shading: the completely dark side, the completely light side, and the mid-range. Many other drawings have more divisions in between these ranges, but this is a simplified format. We can look also at this cone, which is slightly harder than the sphere, but is mostly just triangles running along a circle around the base. Also, once you master the shading of these 4 objects, you should be able to understand the shading on any other object. Mostly because these are the base objects that make up the other objects in the world. Now that you have that down, take a look at this basic shape of a Splatoon character. My best suggestion is to draw it until your hands give out on you, or just draw it a couple times a day for a weekish. Either that or just use similar versions to it as a base sketch underneath. Once you understand it a bit, you don't need to fully memorize it. Anyways, as I've stated, repetition is key in art. So if you draw this basic deconstruction enough times, you will, without a doubt, get better at drawing the Inkling/Octoling form. There's also the idea of action lines, too, basically drawing a C or S-shaped line, and following it when you draw your character, to make them more eye-catching, since they look like they're in movement. Don't worry, I don't have a good grasp on why we do this either, so I'm just gonna tippy-tap over to color theory real quick. As a person who color theory comes naturally to, this section was hard to sit down and write. But let's get into it anyway. First, we got the primary colors: red, blue, and yellow. These colors are really good for contrast and emphasis. Next, we've got the secondary colors, which contain green, orange, and purple. They fit a similar idea. After that are the tertiary colors, which are mixtures of primary and secondary colors. These mesh together better and cause less contrast, depending on which side of the wheel you choose from. These ideas can get your brain quite overloaded, in my opinion. It's best to just either stick to the cool colors of blue, green, and purple, with a couple dips into the warmer colors of red, orange, yellow, and pink, or the opposite of such. If you want to shift into a color on the other side of the wheel that contrasts too much, use an in-between color that is about halfway between it and a color you already have near it on the color wheel, usually on the side of which the two contrasting colors are closest to each other. Now on to the more interesting part of all this: how to get inspiration for your idols. When it comes to characters, inspiration can come from anywhere, which is highly unhelpful. But in all honesty, coming up with a name or base idea first is a good place to start. What do you want the character to represent? Is their representation related to the way they make music? Are they an Inkling or an Octoling? If they are an Octoling, what connection do they have to the overall army of the Octarians? Are they a civilian or a participant? Are they a deserter? If an Inkling, do they know about the Great Turf War? What is their opinion on the current state of the world? And overall, for the characters, where are they? Do they have the ability to interact with turf wars? Or perhaps they work on Salmon Run? Are they a musician only? What type of music do you want them to make? Perhaps you could make their name related to how they craft their music, or a joke on a musical term, or perhaps make a full group with names that bounce off each other and create a pun when fused together. Maybe their names are just plain human names, but give a reason why. Did they steal them from a random piece of human history? Or is that just normal in your interpretation? Do they have a DJ name? What's the name of the band, if it's a group or a duo? Do they even have a catchphrase? If they do have a catchphrase, what is their catchphrase? How did they come up with it? Is it related to their band name? Or is it connected to their past, or their relation to one another? Do they have a producer? Are all of them vocalists? Or is one of them the musician of the band? How do they bounce off of each other? And how do they bounce off new people? There's so many questions to go through. They could even be a creature outside of the norm as well. You don't need to just be Inklings and Octolings. Anyways, try your best to answer some of these questions, and the ideas will, hopefully, come to you. When it comes to outfits, though, try and influence them off the people they are. Laid back, loose-fitting and saggy clothing, straight to the point of serious, straight edges in the cloth, and strict posture. I hope that makes sense and overall helps with the ideation process. As we come to the end of this video, I can only hope some of you decide to take on the challenge of becoming a Splatoon fan idol creator yourself. All you need is a laptop and a dream, after all, so go out there and start creating. Also, if you liked the video, consider leaving a like. You can leave a comment if it tickles your fancy, and if you want to see more of my content and my own Splatoon fan idols down the road, subscribe. On top of that, consider supporting me on Ko-Fi with the link in the description, so I can keep doing stuff like this.